Good morning, welcome. Today's Chumash portion for the Tuesday of Parshas Vayeira, chapter 19 in Bereishit in Genesis. Well, we learned about the debate, the lobbying efforts on Abraham's part to save Sodom and Amorah, to save the 5 cities, and the lobbying efforts did not succeed. So now we read, Vayavo'u shnei hamalachim Sodoma bo'erev. 2 of the 3 angels arrived in Sodom towards evening. They left Abraham's residence. He escorted them, and they arrived in Sodom. V'lot yoshev b'shar Sodom. And Lot was sitting in the gates of Sodom. Vayar Lot saw them. Vayokom likrosam, and he rose up towards them. Vayishtachel apayim orza, and he fell on his face to the earth. Now, there's a lot of ambiguity here. Rashi, first of all, Shnei. Why 2 angels? There were 3. And if you only need 1, send 1. Why 2? Echad lahashches esdom. The reason we need 2 angels is one's job was to destroy Sodom. And if we follow the teaching of the Balaturim we learned earlier, this would be the angel Gavriel. The echad lahatzilas Lot, and 1 to save Lot. And if we follow the Balaturim earlier, this would be the angel Raphael. He's the healing and saving, he's the 911 angel. This would be the same angel as the one who came to heal Abraham. What about the 3rd angel? Vashlishi, the 3rd angel, the one who came to inform Sarah that she's going to have a baby. He did his job. He left. Why should the angel hang out when his job is done? The angel who informed Sarah that she's going to have a baby, this angel didn't go to Sodom to begin with. He had nothing to do in Sodom. That's why only 2 out of the 3 angels went. There's a cute childhood story that I remember from my growing up years. That there was this artist who displayed a new piece of art. And he finally uncovers the canvas, and everybody sees it's a blank canvas. But there's a title. The title of the painting is Cow Eating Grass. So they said to him, cow eating grass? Where's the grass? He says, the cow ate it. Where's the cow? If he ate the grass, he should hang around. So that's the cow eating grass, is the blank canvas. Hamalachim ulahalon kro'om anoshim. Later he refers to them as men. Were they men or were they angels? When the divine presence is with them, kro'om anoshim, he refers to them as men. Davar achar, another meaning, etzel Avram shekeiche godol, relative to Abraham, who was great, and people were always in and out of his house. Angels were always in and out of his house like people. Kram anoshim, he calls them men. It's so late, but for Lot, Kram malachim, he calls them angels. But the fact is that they were angels disguised as men. Bo'erev. Now the question is, why did it take the angels all day to get from Hebron to Sodom? Did they hit traffic? Was it the 405 they were on? I mean, what was the problem? It took the angels so long. From Hebron to Sodom. Angels, they can email themselves. They're instant. They don't have to travel like people. They were angels of compassion, and they waited to see perhaps Abraham's lobbying efforts would be successful. So that's why they took their time and took all day. Now, as the angels arrived in Sodom, Lot sat in the gates of Sodom. Yoshev requires a vav. If we read this without vocalization, Yoshav ksiv. It's as if it would have said Yoshav. Sat. That was new. It was a new experience. That day, he was voted mayor or chief of police. Vayeira Lot mi beis Avram lamed lachzer al orchim. Why did Lot eagerly greet the guests? Because after all is said and done, Lot grew up in Abraham's house. And Abraham was Mr. Hospitality. Abraham was like Tom Bodette. He leaves the light on for the guests. So Lot was trained well to excel in hospitality, except that in Sodom, you take your life into your hands when you do that. Because there was legislation against hospitality, as we learned earlier. Verse 2. Vayemer, so Lot said to the guests, Hine no Adonai, I beg you, my masters, s'il vous plaît, please, suru no, please, turn aside, el beis abdechem, and come to the house of your servant, vilinu, and rest and sleep, v'rachzu raglechem, and wash your feet, v'ishkamtem, then you will wake up, v'alachtem ledarkechem, and you'll go on your way, v'yemru, and the angels, knowing that they would be endangering Lot, said, Lo, no thank you. Ki bar chayv nolan, we're happy to sleep in the street. Rashi, hine no adonai, hine no atem adonim li. Behold, you are my masters, achashav artem alai, being that you've come across my path, I'm obligated to extend hospitality to you. Davar achar, so therefore you are my masters, I need you so that I can perform this good deed. Another interpretation, hine not tzrichem atem losses leiv. Lot is warning them, and he says to them, listen guys, you got to really be careful. You're in a very dangerous neighborhood. Al harshoyim halolu, because these wicked people, shelo yakiru bachem, they shouldn't recognize you. Again, the cities, the 5 cities of Sodom and Amorah were the wealthiest counties in the whole area, and they were literally terrified of visitors, so that the visitors not benefit from their economy and not impoverish their economy. And they had anti-immigration laws and anti-visitor laws, and before you could come in, you needed to prove that you were wealthy, and so on and so forth. And in fact, as we learned earlier, if a poor person chanced upon Sodom and Amorah, they would kill them. They would torture them to death. Not a good place for poor tourists. They didn't have many YMCAs. Vizuhi eitzin, so you got to be very careful. They shouldn't recognize you as guests. Vizuhi eitzin achayna, this would be a good idea. What's the idea? Suruno akmu es haderech leveisi. I would suggest that you take a long and winding road, a twisted road to my house. Derech hakalos, in a roundabout way. No one should spot you and see you're coming to my house. Shelo yakiru, they shouldn't recognize. Shatem nechnosim sham, that you're even going in. You can sneak in through the side door. Lakach nemar suru, turn aside. Take the long, winding way. Velinu berachzu ragleichem. Vechidarkon shel bnei adam lolun tchilu achakach lirchayitz. He's telling them to rest and then wash your feet. Usually people wash their feet if they're walking barefoot in the desert, and then they rest. He's telling them to rest and then wash their feet. That's a little backward. And furthermore, we learned a few verses back that Avraham himself said, first wash your feet and then sleep. Why is Lot changing the approach here, telling them to first sleep and then wash their feet? Lot said this for a reason, because if when they come to my house, I'll tell them to wash their feet, when the guest police arrive. Sodom had guest police, like the Taliban. I didn't mean that. We're on the internet. And people will see that they already washed their feet. Yalilu, they're going to conjure up a bunch of charges. A lie upon me. And they'll say, look at these people. They have clean feet. Probably 2 or 3 days passed. They came to your house. And you didn't let us know. In Sodom, there was a law. Guests had to register. You didn't register? Forget it. You lose your rights. They arrest you. Some countries have that law. And when you come to the country, if you don't register, Lefikach Omar, therefore, they said, Mutav Shisak Fukan Babak Ragleim. So Lot said it would be a much better idea if they stay here with the dust on their feet. Shiyunidim Kameshabo Achshav, they should appear as if they just arrived. So when the guest police come, Lot will say, no, they just arrived. 2 minutes ago, I was about to send you an email that I have guests. Lefikach, therefore, Omar Linu Tchila, therefore Lot said, first sleep, and then wash. Whenever they come, I'm going to say you just got here. So that's how terrified, good morning, Lot was of the enforcement police. They said no. They said no to Lot. And to Abraham they said yes. From here we learn that it's much easier to say no to a less important person, but one should not refuse a very important person. They had no problem saying no thank you to Lot, but they said yes thank you to Abraham, to Avraham Avinu. We will not go to your house. We're going to sleep in the street. So Lot did not take no for an answer. Verse 3, and he pleaded with them. So they turned in unto him. They came to his house. Made them a big feast. He also baked matzahs. And they ate it. They took the roundabout way. Why matzahs? Well, matzahs ofa Pesach, it was Passover. As we learned earlier, this was the Passover season. The patriarchs observed the festivals even before they were given. Lot grew up in Abraham's house, so he also baked matzah in the Passover season. Now, the guest police were about to come to Lot's house to give them some bitter herbs. Terem yishkavu, before they actually lay down to rest. The Anshi Ha'ir, the local residents of the city, Anshi Sodom, the people of Sodom, Nosabu alabayis, they encircled, they surrounded the house. Come out with your hands up, you're surrounded. Minar v'adzokin, from young to old, kol ha'om, the entire community, mikotza, from every quarter. Why? Because there was a terrible crime being perpetuated here, and that was hosting guests. For terem yishkavu, v'anshi ha'ir anshis deim, kach nidris, Bereishit Rabbi, this is what the Medrash says, terem yishkavu, before they lay down, v'anshi ha'ir ha'yu b'piyim shamalachim. The angels, or the guests, were discussing with Lot, the people of the community. Because they said to Lot, Ma tivom, what kind of people are these people? Good morning, Umaseh, and what kind of deeds do they have? And Lot said to them, Rubam Rishoyim, the vast majority of them are rotten. And they're still talking, and they come and they surround the house. And they were really threatening. The men of the city, the wicked men, surrounded the house. I'll show you to show you the Krayim Anshi Sodom. Why does he say the men of Sodom? Obviously, because they were wicked, they acted like Sodomites. Kol ha'om mikotze, miktzei ha'ir v'adakotze, from one end of the city to the other. Shein echad meicha biyodam, no one tried to prevent it. Shafil tzadik echad ein bahem, there wasn't even one righteous person. Every single one of them were rotten. Now, you know what was a very, very big thing in Sodom? Homosexuality. This was a very great accepted culture. It was the homosexual capital. And that explains the next verse. Vayikru el Lot, and they called out to Lot, Vayomru lo, and they said to Lot, they said to him, I heard you have some men in your house. We'd like to get to know them. Biblically. Ayeho anoshim, where are the men asher bo elecha, who came to you halayla, this night? Heitziyam eleinu, bring them out to us. V'neda isam, so that we can be intimate with them. So we can rape them. This was the culture of Sodom. If guests come, they violate the no guests rule, they deserve to be raped. 5, v'neda isam b'mishkav zachar, through homosexual intimacy. K'mei asher lo yodu ish. The word das, knowing in the Bible, means intimacy. So this was the demand that they made of Lot. 6. Now Lot felt a very great responsibility to them because they were his guests. So he felt that he had to defend his guests. It was defending his honor. Lot approached the door, and he closed the door behind him to protect his guests. And he said, and remember, he was just elected mayor or the chief of police. He was a big macher there now. But still, you have a out-of-control crowd, a mob scene. He said, Al no achai toreyu, please, I beg of you, my brothers, don't do this terrible thing. You can't violate my guests. He says, I'll tell you what, instead of raping my guests, take my daughters. Nice guy. 8, I have 2 daughters, asher lo yodu ish, who have never been intimate with any man. Let me bring them out to you. And do to them whatever you wish, but to these people who are my guests, don't do anything, because that's why they came under the shadow of my roof. I have to offer them protection. It's my honor. Maybe he knew that they weren't interested in his daughters. Rashi, this favor you do for my honor, because they came into the shade of my roof, under my beam. 9, Vayemru, so they said to him, Gesh holo. They said, move away, or move closer, stand back. Vayemru, and they said threateningly to him, Ho'echad bo logur. One man came to dwell here as a stranger. Vayishpeit shofet, all of a sudden he's legislating laws here. Ato, now, because of this, Nora lecha mehem, we're going to treat you worse than we were planning to treat them. Vayivtziru ba'ish beleit me'ed, and they pressed him very seriously. They began to harass him and push him. Vayikshu lishbeir hadolas, and they approached to break down the door to take his guests. 9, Vayemru gesh holo, krab lahola, approach further. This is, Rashi struggles with the grammar here. Klaimer, hiskarav dodim, take yourself aside, bisrachik, we meant remove yourself from us. It means removal. Further, beyond, gesh holi, mashaklaun, stand back. Vilshain laz, retire, toi, du nu. Udvar nezifahu, it's a word of rebuke. Leimer, ein anu cheshem lach, we don't care about you. He let's let him step aside. You're defending the guests. How dare you defend the guests? Concerning that which Lot said to them regarding the daughters, they said, this was a gentle expression, lashon nachas. They said, okay, we'll take your daughters. One comes to live and he becomes a ruler. Adam nachri yechidi, a stranger, alone. Ato beinin, you are amongst us. Shabbos lagu, you came to dwell here. Vayishpet shofet, suddenly you're the judge. Vaynasa mechiach esanu, you're rebuking us. You're telling us what's nice and what's not nice. Hadeles hi asevebes linu lebilteach. Deles refers to the part of the door that swings open and closed. Now, of course, Lot had no idea. Certainly, the Sodomites had no idea that they were angels. Woe is to them had they been people. Could have ruined their whole day. 10, Vayishlechu ha'anoshim es yodam, so the men, being the angels, extended forth their hand from within the house, because Lot was almost trampled. Vayoviu es Lot, and they brought Lot aleim to them, habaisa into the house, v'es hadelas sagoru, and they slammed the door shut. V'es ha'anoshim, and the mob, the men, asher pesach habayis, who were gathered at the doorway right outside the house, hiku, the angels, smote them, struck them, basanvedim, with a blindness. Suddenly they all went blind. I guess now you'd call it pepper spray. Mikoten v'yad godel, from small to great. Vayilu limtzei ha'pesach, they couldn't see a thing, they couldn't even find the door. So there went the threat of the mob. 11, Pesach u'acholot, it's the opening Shabbat Nechlas v'yitzim, through which people enter. Basanvedim makas yivorin, a plague of blindness. Mikoten v'ad godel aktanim, ischel ba'averet tchila. The younger ones began to sin first. Shenemar menar v'ad zaken, young to old. The Medrash says that's why the punishment began with the younger ones. 12, now the angels get serious. So the men said to Lot, Od milechapo, do you have any other close relatives here? Chasan, do you have a son-in-law? Uvanecha sons, ubneisecha, and your daughters. All we know is on our sheet of instructions, it says, take Lot and his family out. Tell us who your family are. Anything you have in the city, you need to bring it out of the city. Do you have anyone else in this city? We know obviously about your wife, because Mrs. Lot was in the house. We learned yesterday her name was Irit. And, or we're going to learn further maybe that her name was Irit. And if you have a son-in-law, or sons or daughters, it's time to get everybody out. Now, to Lot, this sounded like the most insane command in the world. They are in the most desirable place in the world. They're living in the place, in the center of the booming economy. Every day the stock market goes up. Every day real estate prices rise. Banks are dying to lend money. Interest rates are low. It's amazing. So the angels, the guests, these strange men say, come, I'm going to save you from this paradise. Lot said to them, what are you guys smoking? This is a wonderful place. The sons of your married daughters, because as we learn, Lot in fact had not 2 daughters, but 4 daughters. Good morning. He had 2 single daughters and 2 married daughters, and therefore 2 sons-in-law as well. Being that they've done such a shameful thing. You're still defending these guys? Lot kept saying, no, they're wonderful people, they're just a little out of control right now. Maybe they had to drink too much or something. All night, Lot was defending them, so the angel said, how can you defend these barbarians? How dare your mouth still defend these animals? 13, because the angels said to Lot, Ki mashchisim anachnu, we, I guess they revealed themselves as angels, we're here to destroy us, this place. Ki godlot sa'akosam es pnei Hashem, because the cries coming forth from here waxed great before Hashem. By Yishalchenu Hashem, you should know we're not men, we're angels, and God sent us l'shachasa, to destroy this perverted city. So now Lot has a job to go out amongst the mob who are now rubbing their eyes because they've been struck by a blindness, to find all of his family members, as mentioned just now. In addition to his 2 single daughters, he had 2 married daughters. So he had 2 more daughters and their husbands. So Lot went out, and he spoke El Chasanov to his sons-in-law. What is the meaning of Chasanov? The guys who married his daughters. And he said to them, listen guys, Kumu, rise up. Tzu, let's get out from this place. Ki mashchis Hashem es ha'ir, because God is about to destroy the city. And they looked at him and they said, are you crazy, old man? What are you, nuts? People would give their eye teeth to move into the city. What are you smoking? It was like a joke in the eyes. This thing was a joke in the eyes of his sons-in-law. They thought their father-in-law had gone off his rocker. Rashi says, two married daughters, here Rashi says that also there were two people engaged to his single daughters. Those who were engaged to his single daughters. They thought it was a joke. So they said, heck no, we won't go. We won't fight for Mexico. No, they didn't say that. Okay, Texaco. 15. And as the morning star was about to rise, so the angels began to plead with Lot, saying, please, you got to get out. Please, hurry up. What was Lot doing? Taking money out of his ATM, emptying his safe, packing his U-Haul truck. Lot wanted to get every bit of material possession out of Sodom. But the angels pushed him and they said, Kum, rise up. Kaches ishtecha. You have no time for this. Just take your wife. Veshtei b'neisecha, your two daughters. Hanimtsois, who are found here. Pentisofe ba'aveinoir. Lest you be swept up with the sin of the city. You got to go. You got 2 minutes, a 2-minute warning. They pushed him. Miharuhu, they hastened him. Those that are with you in the house, to save them. There's a medrash, and this is the meaning of the text. Tisofet tiyachola, you'll be consumed atem kol hader meturgam adasaf kol dora, until all the generation is consumed. So now it's urgent that they get out, and the angels are pushing. 16, but still Lot was in no hurry because everything looked so peaceful. Vayismahamo, and he lingered, he procrastinated. And we see the musical cantillation here is one of those rare shalsheleses where it says that he really took his time. Vayismahamo, he really took his time. So the men grabbed his hand, and the hand of his wife, and the hand of his two daughters. The angels grabbed them, as God was merciful to him. And they schlepped them out. And they placed him outside the city limits. 16. Why was Lot procrastinating? In order to save his wealth. Because Lot, like everybody else in Sodom and Gomorrah, was a very wealthy guy. And he wanted to make sure that he took all his gold and silver and stocks and bonds and securities. One of them. Remember, there were two angels. One was the destroying angel, the other was the saving angel. So the saving angel, that's why it's singular. The second angel was the destroying angel. When it comes to the acts, it changes to singular expression. And it came to pass when they brought them forth outside. So the saving angel said, and this was Raphael, Malach Raphael said, He molet al nafshecha, run for your life. And the most important thing is, don't turn around. Al tabit acharecha, you may not turn around. As Rashi says, you don't deserve to see the people of Sodom suffer and you escape because you were just as rotten as they were. It's just that you're Abraham's nephew. It's not what you know, it's who you know. We don't want you stopping or tarrying throughout the entire plain, the entire flatland. As we learn, these were 4 cities built on one rock. Run to the mountains. Eitzel Avram Borach. He ran. Etzel Avram brach, run to Abraham. Shu Yeshe Bahor, who dwells in the mountain. Shenem Avayatik Misham Mahora. He moved to the mountain. Af Achshav Yeshiv Sham. He was there as well. Now Shenem Alamokam Shoyer Sham Olay Batchila. Yafal Pikein Shekos, even though it says Vayel Avram, that Avram spread his tents out far. He went to Hebron, but it doesn't mean he wasn't living in the hill country. He molit Lashon Hashmoto, slipping away, sliding away. V'chein kol amlat shvikra, and he said in Old French, V'chein bimlita zachar, shenishmatu b'min arechem, that the child slips out of the womb, kitzipar nimloto, like an escaped bird, lo yuchla mali masa, lashut masa, horisha b'nikiveya. 18. So Lot says to them, please don't do this to me. I don't want to run to the hills. Al no adonai, please know my masters. Al no adonai, Rabbi Seinu Amro Shazeh Shem Kodesh. That's Al no Hashem, that Lot is praying to Hashem. Shenem Arbei Lahachis Es Nafshi says, to save my life, Mishi Yeshbei Lahamis Lahachis. Anyone who can kill and let live, that's God. The Targum says, pray now, O Hashem. So it's really Al no Hashem. Al no, Al taimru elai limo tahara. Please, I beg you, don't tell me to run to the mountains. No lashon bakasha, no is a request. Now what's about to happen here is Lot is going to begin to plead to save the fifth city. Because it's younger, it's newer, and its sins are obviously less. Hashem grants that request. So Lot runs to the fifth city, which Hashem agreed to save. But when he hears what's going on in Sodom, and he sees the smoke and the mud and the blood and the beer, Lot decides to escape the fifth city, and he goes to the hills anyway. And he hides in a cave, and that's the story with Lot and his daughters, which is coming up. 19. If your servant found favor in your eyes, and you have magnified the compassion which you've done to me, saving my life, believe me when I tell you, I don't think I can make it to the mountains. I'm afraid that the evil will overtake me and I will die. I'm terrified. Please. Lot says you have to understand. When I lived in Sodom, relative to the people in Sodom, I was a tzaddik. I was a good guy. God saw my deeds, and the deeds of the locals. Well, you see, a tzaddik compared to them, I was a tzaddik. There's actually a brilliant Jackie Mason line. The only way to really feel young is to hang around very old people. If you're hanging around very old people, you feel young. He says, you know how you can feel righteous? You hang around very wicked people. Compared to the Sodomites, I'm righteous. Vayisi nira tzaddik, so I appeared righteous. Ukadaili and I was worthy of being saved. But when I come to a tzaddik, ani charosha, relative to the tzaddik, I'm a rosh, I'm wicked. The Tzarfatite said to Elio, you, Elijah the prophet, you're so righteous, you came to remind me of my sins, because compared to you, I'm a sinner. Actually, up to now, God would see me and my deeds and the deeds of my people. And I was righteous. But relative to you, I'm wicked. What is Lot's request? 20. Behold, this city is closer or it's younger. Let me run there. Vihi mitzor. This is a smaller or younger city. Imolto no shama. Please let me escape there. Haloi mitzor. Is this not newer? Oschi nafshi. Let me live in mitzor. Rashi explains why the fifth Sodomite city would be younger or newer. Its settlement is more recent. Nisyashiv mikor, it was settled recently. Therefore, Lei nismalo sa dayan. Its measure of sin was not yet full. Mahu krebosa. What does it mean? How recently was it settled? Mideir haflaga, from the generation of the division of mankind, the story of the Tower of Babel. Shenispalgo anoshim, where the people were separated, and they began to settle in different places. That is when this city was settled. So when was this? We learned earlier that the story of the Tower of Babel was Bishnas Meis Peleg, in the year of the death of Peleg. Umishom Ba'ad Khan, from the death of Peleg up to now, Nun Beis Shana is 52 years. She Peleg Meis Bishnas Mem Ches LaAvram. Avram was 48 years old when Peleg died. Ketzad, how does that work? Peleg Chai Achrei Hailidias Re'u, because Peleg lived after he gave birth to Re'u. Reish Tesh Shana, the Chumash says, 209 years. Tzei Mehem Lamed Beis, deduct 32 Kishaneilat Srug, from when his son Srug was born. Umisrug at Shaneilat Nochar Lamedin, from the time that Srug lived until Nochar was born, Lamed, 30 years, Harei Samach Beis, because we're trying to figure out a total amount of years. From Nochar until Terach was born, 29. Aleph, so you have throughout generation to generation, it accumulates to 91 years. Umisham Achanel Avram, and from that point in time until Avram was born, Ayin is 70 years. Harikuf Samach Aleph, so it comes to 161. 10 Lohem, add to this Memches, 48. Hariresh Test, that's the 209. And that was the year of the story of the Tower of Babel. And when Sodom was destroyed, we know that this was the time of the promise of Isaac's birth. So the mathematics says that it was 52 years. Bottom line, how much later was Tzoar founded after Sodom, and the other cities? Shana Achas, 1 year, because the other cities were 53 years. 51, no bigamatria, nun aleph, it's only 51 years old. The bottom line is, because it's younger, it has less sins. Perhaps you can let it be. And my soul will live. It's small, there are very few people. You don't have to worry. So in fact, Lot convinced Hashem to allow Mitzor to survive, but as we see in tomorrow's portion, he panicked and he ran to the hills anyway. End of Chumash portion.